Mr. Bakas, thank you very much for your time. I want to start here. At 54, Mr. Hlabisa says he has ambitions to take the party to greater heights, I should say. Can he do it?
Well, Kole, good morning to you and your listeners. I think the IFP has been on a downward trajectory since '94. And in the last election, we saw a change in that. And largely due, I think, to the implosion of the NFP. We've seen a dramatic upward trend in the IFP, particularly here in KZN. I think the IFP is well placed and the new leadership is well placed to take the party forward. Beyond its rural and beyond the national sentiment, I think there is a strategy to also make the IFP more appealing to a broader electorate. And I think there's an understanding in the IFP that they would need to appeal to younger people. In a country where the majority of people are young, I think the IFP is hoping to attract that electorate.
Let me interrupt you there, Mr. Bakas, and I'm sorry to do this to you. Let me interrupt you there and say to you, if that was indeed the hope for the IFP, would someone like Mkhuleko Hlengwa not have been the right candidate, therefore, if the appeal is directed at younger people?
Well, I think there's a multiplicity of factors. I think we need to bear in mind that with Hlabisa, he's had a linkage with Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi since 1978. So I'm sure there's a whole range of backroom dealings that have been going on in terms of how the new leadership would take form. But I think the time for younger leaders will come. And the younger leaders are the ones who have this more urbane, cosmopolitan appeal and are largely, like you were suggesting, would be able to attract a younger electorate. I think that will come. But I think in terms of wanting a seamless transition, it may have been a strategic move by the IFP to go with Hlabisa. He's been in the legislature, he's been present, he's been articulate, so he in that context, I think, would be the choice for the IFP at this stage in its history.
Among his other priorities, Mr. Bakas, is that Mr. Hlabisa is saying he wants to grow this party in other provinces as well. This party has, in the main, been in KwaZulu-Natal focused there. Is that something that's possible, you think?
Well, you know, there's largely been a nationalist sentiment. There's been a kind of ethnic dimension to it, and therefore the appeal in KZN. I also think it comes from a really horrid past where we know that in the early 90s, the civil war here in South Africa was largely fought between the IFP and the ANC, and there was much speculation at that time linking the IFP to dark forces of apartheid. And I think they've done a great deal of work in trying to disrupt that notion, dispel that, and move forward. But it would be really difficult for the IFP to attract voters in other provinces beyond Gauteng and KZN. It's going to take a lot of hard work, and I think it would mean drawing into their younger leaders, coming to the fore and working hard in provinces like the Western Cape. One finds it hard to imagine how a party like the IFP would extend its vote substantially in a province like the Western Cape, for example.
Yeah. Let me ask you this final question, and just very briefly, Mr. Bakas, what legacy does Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi leave behind?
I think it's a contested one. I think the IFP draws to attention Prince Buthelezi's linkages to founders of the ANC, to the rapport that he shared with Mandela. And I think that legacy is the one that's being told. That's the legacy that's being brought to the fore. But I do think it will be a contested one. I'm sure there would be a number of people who also draw on the negatives in the early 90s, look at the civil war that was fought here, where more people were killed in South Africa than, all the years through our struggle. So it would depend on who writes that legacy, who takes it forward. And my sense is it will certainly be a contested one.
All right. Thank you very much for your insights. Political analyst Imran Bakas joining us from our Durban studio.